Hello, listeners. Welcome to yet another episode of Courage Talks. A special episode today. Someone who I have seen on social media very frequently, and it's always been a source of inspiration. Jitendra Chouksey, or JC, as he's more popularly known as, he's not just running a fitness startup called FITTR, but he's a great role model for fitness himself. A pleasure to have you on board, JC.
Thank you so much, Hetal. I'm honored. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the invite.
So, Courage Talk is all about courage. What's JC's definition of courage?
Well, I don't think I have any distinct definition of courage. Definition is fairly simple. You gotta do what you gotta do, no matter how scared you are, no matter how stuck you feel. I think sometimes when you're stuck, or you deep down you're scared, but you still go ahead and do it. I feel that's what courage is.
Who's your role model for courage?
My role model for courage would be my dad. I believe that I also get some courage from my dad. And that's because, see, he actually kicked the whole cycle. We come from very tiny place. Like my ancestry is not from some privileged background. The ancestry is from like really, really low level folks. Then my dad was one of the first amongst our generations to actually go to a school and go to a college. He was the first guy historically. And then he kind of triggered a cycle of education in our entire ancestry. If my dad wasn't educated, we would never get education. And if my dad did not take the courage to move out of the village, we'd never go to a school. Without going to school, I'd definitely not be here sitting with you. So I think for me, he's my role model.
Yeah, very touching story. And somehow I can relate to my own dad because, he took this huge decision to give up a well-paying job in Bhopal way back in 1990 and moved down south to Coimbatore to start life all over again at 52. And, he moved to Coimbatore, did not know Tamil, did not know textile, and he works for a Bombay-based textile export firm. And sometime later, he shared with us, he did it for us, me and my sister, because he felt that, our outlook would change if he makes a change. And it did change miles, right? So great story. But, we know you as you are today and a pretty successful entrepreneur, big celebrity, if I might call it, on social media. But take us down memory lane. What was childhood like? What were your earliest memories of your childhood and any naughty stuff that you did during your childhood?
Not really. I was usually the last guy in the classroom. I didn't have many friends. Mostly I was beaten up, bullied, so I was the guy who people used to bully. So that was my childhood.
Is that the reason why you built up those biceps?
Yes, yes. That's primarily why I got into fitness, because I thought, people would stop bullying me. It was not to attack them back or something. I just wanted people to stop making fun of me in school because I was fat. And so it was very awkward for me. And I don't have many fond memories of my childhood, to be very honest. I was definitely not a naughty boy. I was stubborn for sure, but that's what my family keeps telling me, that I was very stubborn. If I wanted to do something, I would focus on it and I would do like a maniac. Even when I was like going for the gym, I was working out. And one time I was, preparing for my army exam, or even when I was doing my school exams. So I do them dedicatedly. During college, I would like sit in one chair and study for like 12 to 14 hours till my back used to have like chair marks on it. And because I was not like a very bright student, I was very average, mediocre. So everything that I tried to learn, for me, it was very difficult to learn stuff because I primarily came from Hindi medium, and then switching from Hindi medium to, English medium to CBSE. It was all very difficult, but that's how it was.
Wow. So your story reminds me of two movies. One is 12th Fail, the other one is Srikanth. And 12th Fail is obviously from the humble background perspective, not very good in studies.
That's a
And
great
then
movie.
he put in that resolve to crack the civil services. And
Yeah,
Srikanth, because of the bullying episode,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Do you remember any bullying episode which really made you think that you need to change yourself, get some things corrected in your life?
Yeah. So first time was, I think I was in class 8 when I joined the new school. So I was in Swami Vivekanand, 6th and 7th. It was a boarding school hostel. Everybody spoke Hindi there. And from there, and that was like MP board. And then in 8th class, I moved to a CBSE board school.
Which city are we referring to?
Ratanpur is near Bhopal.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
So I got admitted to that school. Everybody was new, and a lot of people just started making fun of me for my weight. At the time, I had started gaining weight. So I think that was, I had like very little friends. I had like practically zero friends. And I think the bullying was getting, and it's not like everybody bullied me. You have some people in the classroom who are like slightly more, they are like the guys who act tough and bully everybody. So those people used to bully me. And so that's when I decided I'll join a gym. And that was a suggestion from a friend who said, yeah, you keep eating so much. Why don't you go and join a gym? So that's when I joined the gym.
During your 8th grade, you joined a gym?
Yes. And
Wow.
after that, I think 6 months, 7 months down the line, there was some bunch of kids who came down next to my house, like opposite to my house, there was a garden. And I think there was something happening related to somebody's playing and everything. I was just standing there. The guys came and then they slapped me because they could. So apparently they were kids of some like big shot there. So that was pretty bad. So I have all these memories of, like kids beating me up.
And I can totally understand how you must have felt at that point of time. You mentioned your dad was your hero. Any learning of your dad which you like to cite about? Anything that you learned from him?
Yeah, for a very long time, I thought that my dad really didn't love me. But that was because Indian dads are usually not very expressive. They don't express themselves. But I think so. This was in year 2003, and my dad would drop me. So he used to have Suzuki Fiero, and I was late for my exam. He drove like at top speed, even though he shouldn't have, but made sure that I reached the exam hall on time. First thing is that. Then I was supposed to clear my exam. So it was like a campus placement. And I had this thing, campus interview for TCS and Infosys. Yeah, I think it was Infosys. And I did not get selected. So I was crying like crazy. And more importantly, I was scared because I thought that my dad would get pissed off because I was doing well, but I did not get selected. So I was crying and I was trying to avoid him, but instead of that, he started consoling me and said कि यार ऐसे बहुत सारी companies आएंगी, एक company में selection नहीं हुआ तो क्या होता है? And that was the first time I was like, holy shit. Like my dad actually cares about me, he loves me, and I think then I started seeing that side of him more often.
Which college was this?
So I was in Technocrats, Bhopal.
Okay. Yeah. I grew up in Bhopal as well. So
Nice.
yeah. And I had similar story. I graduated from Indore, GSITS.
Nice,
And
nice.
no, I didn't have a job in hand as well.
Yeah.
But of course, there's another story there. How I decided to go to Bangalore and look for a job. I literally went
Nice.
around door to door, dropping my resume at IT
Yeah.
companies in Bangalore. As luck would have it, I got through Wipro and my career changed after that. But yeah,
Wow.
very strong stories and strong
Similar stories.
memories.
Yeah. Similar
Yeah.
stories. Yeah.
Courage is more mental than physical, right? Any instance where your mental courage and fortitude has helped you? Any example or any incident that you would like to cite?
I have so many such examples. More recently, for example, like every entrepreneur goes through this. So you have your companies and companies, they make profits. And at some point of time, the markets play in. You have investors, sometimes they come in, sometimes they go out. You know how the different factors
Yeah.
affect your market. And entrepreneurs have to be ready for everything that comes their way, right? So sometimes you make profits, sometimes you go into losses. I think dealing with losses for the last 2 years was incredibly hard. Nobody knew it except for me and maybe my one or two close co-founders, and nobody was aware what I was going through. It was a tough phase, but luckily I had some other people who I looked up to, and when I heard that these guys are losing even more money in a single day than I've lost in the last 2 years, that was like, and these guys are like really calm and composed. And when I'm talking to them, they're like, yeah, ye sab chalta rehta hai. That's when I realized, holy shit, if these guys are losing so much money and they're perfectly fine, then probably I just need to stay calm and wait it out. And sometimes I think that's the best thing you can do rather than, just reacting to situations, just wait for the situations to get better. And that's exactly what happened. We are back to being profitable again after making losses for 2 years. And so I think that also made me a lot more humble, and also made me realize that market factors are like the ultimate. They are like the ultimate decider, who gets to win, who gets to lose. So you can do whatever you can from your side, but at the end of the day, you still have a lot of things that are not in your control.
you've been in the fitness industry for a while. Thousands of people have seen their lives transform thanks to your product and your app. And I'm sure every now and then you would be coming across someone who would be like, how the hell will he do it, right? Then the transformation happens. Would you like to narrate some story or incident or someone whom you have seen change dramatically, and how courage was so visible in his story?
So I do these 6 months transformations before, and every time I train somebody, usually the first response is, "Will I be able to do it?" Whether you talk about Nas Daily, Nosire, whether you talk about Deepak, who I recently trained, and the guy lost about 25 kgs in a matter of 3 months. So I selected him randomly through an audition of 400 plus people. He came to Pune, and the idea was to basically do this transformation live, and we recorded everything on YouTube so that people would know how simple it is. So when I told him that, hey, you would be able to lose 25 kgs, obviously he was extremely excited, but he had a very different notion of how easy or difficult this was going to be. He thought it was going to be extremely difficult, right? So he was also kind of getting anxious, and then I calmed him down. I told him, look, if you're trying to look at the whole thing in one go, you're going to get stressed. But in reality, what you have to do is just lose 300 grams per day, and that's about it. So that way you're losing almost 8 to 9 kilograms a month, and in
Yeah.
a 3 month period, you're losing almost 24, 25 kgs. So just by not thinking about bigger goals and trying to achieve smaller goals every single day, that makes so much more sense than just worrying about bigger numbers. So I think that's something which a lot of people don't understand. You have to break down everything into smaller goals. So I think this was an example of how somebody like Deepak was able to visualize the goals much better. Yeah.
Losing weight reminds me that unlike many other startup founders in the fitness industry, you don't go beyond anyone else, but you have your own fitness journey to talk about, especially the weight loss journey, right? So, why don't you
Yeah.
walk us through? I mean, what transpired and what happened in the weight loss journey that you so fondly remember?
Yeah, so I've had like multiple journeys, and every journey was a bit different from the other journey. Like my childhood was mostly spent trying to get fit, but I really didn't get fit. I was just working out, and I was doing all sorts of things like don't eat ghee, stop oil, or stop sugar, and everything. All of those things I did as a kid, but I was still eating a lot. I did not understand the concept of quantified nutrition, right? So I did not lose weight. I kept building muscles, but I did not lose weight. So this was one of my earliest journey. Then through college period, I joined boxing, and because I was doing a lot of boxing related drills and all those things, and I was kind of also feeling good in my skin. So at that time, I just stopped eating food. Like I used to eat one meal in a day, and that naturally resulted in me losing some weight, right? But it was not very sustainable because it eventually lowers your metabolism, right?
Yeah.
And then I gained all the weight back. Obviously, I was in Pune for my job, and it was around 2008, and I was weighing around 88 kgs.
Hmm.
And then I think you recall the story which I mentioned with Dilip, is that I had a crush on someone during my IT days, and I didn't have the courage to talk to that person. I thought first I'll lose some weight and maybe, you know. So I lost about 20 kgs by just drinking juice. Like one day I drink juice, other day I'll just eat food.
Okay.
So yeah, and yeah, and by the time I was done doing all of this nonsense and lost around 20 kgs, I was running into severe deficiencies. And one time, me and my friends, we were at McDonald's. Like we were at McDonald's. I just fell unconscious for almost 5 minutes, and then later they told me to go to a doctor. I went to a doctor, and doctor told me that you have these many deficiencies, right? So I've done a lot of these nonsense stuff, fads over a period of time. Then finally, my actual transformation happened in 2013 when I moved from Pune to Bangalore, which is when I started learning about fitness and nutrition. And I was able to reduce my body fat percentage drastically from almost 16, 17% to almost 8, 9% body fat. And that's when I started, really understanding what nutrition is all about. And I read so much, it's crazy. I even wrote a book at that time around 2015. I wrote a book on everything that I had learned. And that book is popularly now referred to as Get Shredded Document. So it's available for everybody.
That whole journey that you describe and how people confuse between fat and muscle mass, how they confuse between being healthy and being fit, and how they compromise on food when it comes to dieting and all kind
Yeah.
of diet which are there, obviously makes for a lot of khichdi and
So
confuses more people than informs anyone, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
tell us a bit on your personal journey, right? I know you got a charming wife and a beautiful daughter. What's been the story of courage that you learned from your family?
So I actually found my wife on Facebook. I think a little bit of courage was displayed by me when I reached out to her on Facebook, and then she actually responded back. Then we started dating. She was in Bangalore doing her MBA, and I had just gotten a job in IBM. And luckily, we were from the same caste, so family didn't have any problems. And yeah, we got married pretty quick. I think after 6 months of
Okay.
meeting each other initially, we were married. And so we've been married for almost 11 plus years. I have a 10-year-old daughter now, and we stay in Pune, and I'm about to be a dad again for the second time.
Ah,
So yeah,
congrats.
thank you.
What is it about your daughter that inspires you?
She is kind, she is humble, she is better than me and my wife in every manner that she can be. And I think she's very sensitive. I think that she takes that from me. I mean, she appreciates the fact that she is born into a good family. I mean, she's not really born into a good family because she's seen the struggle. I'm more concerned about the kid that's going to come, because the kid would never be able to see what struggle his dad actually went through, right? But my daughter has seen my struggles, so she remembers it all. The best part is, like, she is very humble, and I think that she will do something great, hopefully in future. So she's a really nice and kind person. Yeah, she is better than me, my wife, in every way.
Very interesting. Some years down the line, when your daughter is watching this podcast, and you had to give one learning to your daughter, what would that be?
Learning to my daughter, she should always remember what I told her about being happy and how not looking forward to one specific day, but live each and every day rather than just focusing on one big day or one big thing. So this is something which I keep telling her, and I think she understands this finally. So I have this thing on my hand, it's carved, it says Carpe Diem, which means that seize the day. And so I've
Wow.
been teaching the same thing to my daughter, telling her that, like, don't think that there's some sort of a happiness waiting for you in future. Whatever you have now, and you still have to learn and try to be happy in that day with whatever you have. So I just hope that she remembers this lesson as she keeps growing up.
Beautiful, beautiful. Courage is a lot about taking risk, and I know entrepreneurship itself is a big risk. But uh, what's just been your biggest risk so far in life?
Starting FITTR, I would consider that one of my biggest risks. I think the family was scared, my wife was scared, everybody was scared. They didn't know what I was going through. Maybe episodes of psychosis when I was pitching this idea and was working so vigorously towards it. I was almost convinced that this is going to be a sure success. I had a good job, decent job, which was taking care of the family at the time. You weren't rich. You're staying in like a simple 1 BHK apartment in Handebadi. And I was just a newborn father. So my wife was also with me for like 2, 3 years. So everything was very, how do you say, everything was very chaotic. And at the time, nobody wanted me to quit my job and pursue something that nobody knew what it was actually until I started it. Right? So I think that was one of the most courageous things I did. I pursued the idea, and the idea became very successful.
Courage is also in vulnerability, in not holding back your emotions and letting the world know what's going on in your mind. You did share a lot about that from your
From my
childhood, but
Yes.
any recent instances where you just could not hold your emotions back?
I think I do that primarily because I feel like a lot of people define what it means to be an entrepreneur, define what it means to be a man, define what it means to be a good father and a great husband in a very safe manner. But there's nothing safe about being any of these things. You can't really be a perfect guy, be a perfect kid, perfect father, perfect husband, or perfect entrepreneur. You are going to make mistakes. And unless until you make those mistakes, you will not realize what it really takes to make something work. So I do believe that a lot of people need to make those mistakes if they want to move forward in their life, learn from those mistakes and become a better person. It's not about not doing mistakes to become perfect, because then you are not moving forward. You're not learning. So I think those mistakes are part and parcel of you becoming a better version of yourself. That's why I post these things on LinkedIn, my entrepreneurial limitations when the company started making losses. I think people need to know that it's okay. I mean, it's not a crime. So unless until you are doing something illegal, it's perfectly fine to make mistakes. We are all human beings. So I want to put forth the idea that humans are vulnerable and they are all limited by different factors and they are going to make mistakes, but it should be perfectly fine to make mistakes.
Yeah, very well said. FITTR is not just you; it's a team. Any employee in FITTR whom you would want to call out for exceptional work, maybe a sign of courage as well.
I think everybody who's stuck with me over the last so many years, like FITTR will be completing almost 9 years very soon. My co-founders, they have stuck with me for almost 7, 8, 9 years now. Rohit, Bala, be Joe, my product guy, he's been with me for almost 5 plus years. And we still feel that there's the same kind of connect, there's the same kind of spark which originally brought us together. So I think it's also not just co-founders. I think credit also goes out to some of our oldest investors, even Sunil Shetty and even Rajan, for instance, Sequoia guys. They came in, have been with us for almost 4 plus years, right? So and more recently, let's say Nitin Kamath and team. I think it's a the fact is that over the years I've learned to appreciate everybody who's become a part of this journey because it's like we could have gone 1 plus 1 2, but when all of these people came together, we made it 1 plus 1 11. And credit goes to really each and everybody who stood by my side, stood by this organization, believed in the principles, believed in the vision. Really, everybody.
Any book that you would like to cite for courage?
I haven't read many of the books. To be very honest, I'm more like a podcast guy.
Movie or a OTT?
Yeah, I do watch a lot of movies. One of my favorite movies is October Sky. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. If you haven't watched it, if you're watching this podcast, I highly recommend watching October Sky. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And the movie is exactly about courage. It's about
Okay,
chasing your dreams. It's about pursuing your passion. And everybody should watch that movie.
I'll definitely check that out.
Sure, please. It's one of
um,
the best works of. It's a movie about a kid who went on to become a rocket scientist.
wow.
It's one of the best works of Jake Gyllenhaal, the actor.
I actually know of an author who actually went on to become a rocket scientist from a virtual nobody growing up
Okay,
in Turkey. Ozan Varol.
nice.
He's the author of 2 books as well. Think Like a Rocket Scientist. That's actually the name of the book.
Wow. Okay, cool. The movie is actually made on him, because
I
it's a
don't know.
biopic of a
I don't know.
scientist.
I'll have to check that out.
Sure.
Great. So thanks a lot, JC. It was excellent talking to you, going down memory lanes, sharing some not so pleasant incidents, but which has probably made you what you are today. And hats off to you. Continue the fabulous journey that you're on. Bye.